And we are live. Welcome to Olivia's Stories, ladies and gentlemen. Story number 1.
I knew that my wife was a lover of flashy life, but I had never thought that one day she would leave me for a rich young athlete. I trusted her, and showed her the most precious love that others dream of, but she didn't appreciate anything I had done for her. So she resorted to cheating with a young boy just because he was richer or more affording than I was. I never understand women sometimes. One minute they love you for who you are, not what you offer or put on the table. The next minute she changes and loves someone else. I don't know why I loved her and showed her love too much to a point that I even got comfortable at the fact that she was mine and she would remain mine forever. Never. I mean, never ever give or take all the love that your heart offers and give it to someone who is not your blood. That is one thing I got to learn the hard way. It was not easy accepting it, but life goes on, right? And it has to move on. It taught me that I should rather use like or love that person with my lever, not my heart, because once it breaks, it's not really easy to repair it. I don't know if I dealt with everything the right way, but it was satisfying for me. If there is anyone who once came across the same situation, what was your take? How did you deal with everything? Let me tell you what happened so you can understand my story. So I, M33, met this wonderful, bubbly, yet respectful and sophisticated wife of mine, years back when I was still in university. Well, I was doing my second year in philosophy and science, meaning I was what they call a nerd. I was so obsessed with science and philosophy, so I was always on my books and experimentations. I loved learning about people's lives, especially the people from the past. My wife, 32, was doing marketing studies at Boston College, which was not far from where I was residing at a student's accommodation. I didn't even know that we were living in the same building. So one of the days I bumped into her, I was late for my class, so I was running, and I accidentally bumped her, and she spilled her coffee mug on her and the books I was carrying. I got pretty angry because the books I was carrying had my assignments that were due that day. Instead of apologizing, I told her to look where she was going, then I left her there fuming. A week passed without me bumping into her. I was already feeling guilty for what I had done. I mean, I was the one on the wrong, but I blamed her for my action. I needed to see her, just to apologize at least. So as I was walking to the nearest fast food restaurant, I saw her walking with her friends. When her eyes met mine, she got disgusted, and I knew that I had fucked up. Luckily, they were going to the same restaurant that I was going to. I then got a chance to go to their table and apologize for my jerk behavior. I asked to speak to her, and as expected, she ignored me and continued talking to her friends. I then just blurted out my apology to her. She gave me a hard time, and then I told her that I wanted to make it up to her, or at least replace her shirt that was ruined by the coffee. She eventually told me that she would be free on a Saturday. That was the only time I would get a chance to apologize to her properly and replace her shirt. At least there was some progress, right? That Saturday, I met up with her as I had promised, and we went to the mall. I apologized to her. We started talking about random things and how we didn't know each other while we were living in the same building. Our conversations were smooth and funny. I asked her to choose the restaurant she wanted to eat at, and to my surprise, she chose McDonald's. Well, I was not a big fan of McDonald's, but I had to respect her choice. Since that day, we started getting along. We even exchanged numbers, and that was how our friendship was formed. For some time, we would go out, explore San Francisco. I didn't know how much I was missing out on. Yes, I would go out, but I would either go to museums or science labs, no other places. I didn't know the beauty of San Francisco until the day when she forced me to go out with her. I enjoyed every moment I had spent with her. I learned that she was really smart and business-minded because she had a dream of having her own marketing agency. Few months passed, our friendship was going pretty well. Her friends even started complaining that she was no longer spending time with them, but she didn't care about them. She had taught me a lot about life in general, and that there is life out there to live besides your books and science labs. Every time spent with her was always a bliss. So during those months, we were having an indoor picnic in my room. As friends, obviously, I accidentally kissed her. Well, it was not accidentally because I had been longing to kiss her since the day we went to the mall. Funny enough, she kissed me back, and one thing led to another. One minute we were kissing, and the next our clothes were on the floor. I didn't know that she would act like that. Yes, she was bubbly and carefree, but I didn't think she was a freak and would have accepted the kiss and things would go that far. We continued doing the deed every now and then. That time we had not even entitled our thing. It was just sex, nothing else. It went on for like 2 months, up until I asked how we were entitling our sex moments. She asked why I called it sex moments because she had thought we were boyfriend and girlfriend. Well, I didn't get that memo, but I was glad that she had suggested that we get into a relationship instead of being fuck buddies. Our relationship was formed. Our relationship was going really great, much to her friends' disapproval. I was glad that she was not ashamed of me and our relationship. I fell in love with her each and every day. As I was a nerd, as they would say, she understood me and my obsessions because she would sometimes go with me to historical sites. We connected very well. I remember when she used to call and ask if I had eaten, and if I had not eaten, I would hear a knock at my door, and there she was with a big container carrying food she had cooked. She knew how to take care of a man in every way. I loved her more for that. So we dated for a year until we elevated our relationship to the next level. That year, I got an internship as an assistant professor in philosophy. It was going to be great for me in my dream career as I wanted to be a political scientist. The money I was making was enough for me to get my own place and propose to Bianca, my wife. I proposed to her 2 months after she had moved in with me. That time, she had also started her own social media marketing platform, and she was doing pretty well in her job. I was really proud of her. She was also going to graduate that year, so things were going well on her side. Everything was going well on our side, if I may say. So as she was doing her social media marketing, she would sometimes go and meet up with either influencers or other people who needed her talent and skill in marketing. We were so happy and lacked nothing. She continued being the great fiancé who knew how to take care of a man. She always made sure to come back earlier at home so she could cook for her man. I really appreciated her in my life. She had already met my family and they welcomed her very well. I mean, who wouldn't? She was a goddess inside and out. She was what we call beauty with brains. And everything was settled after she had met my family. Her family was living in Brazil, so it was not easy to meet with them since we were both busy in our lives, but she had introduced me to them via Skype, and I saw that they were good people, a family of respect and values. I then understood where she got the qualities of a wife. Her mother was a very kind woman and she valued respect and genuine love. She reminded me of my own mother. I was glad I had chosen a girl who came from a well-groomed family. Little did I know what I had put myself into. Well, 9 months passed and we decided to tie a knot. We didn't want any drastic and attention-seeking wedding, so we opted for a nice, intimate wedding ceremony with our close friends and family. Well, I didn't have any friends. My friends were my brothers, so I had invited a few of my colleagues. That was the day I had trapped myself in a deceitful and unfaithful situation in my life. Only if I had known that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. 5 years later, my wife had started her own marketing agency. On the other hand, she got pregnant with our firstborn baby boy. We were so happy and so much in love, you know. I had also become a political scientist and life was great. Things also started changing in the 5 years after my son was born. Bianca was a lovely mother. I won't lie on that, but she would get a lot of clients that would want her agency to do the marketing, especially when there would be big events. So we had to hire a stay-home nanny to stay with our son, because we would both get super busy to the point that we would have to travel to other countries. Well, I would be busy like that. Years went by, our son grew, and by that time we had twins 2 years after our son. The family was growing stronger each day, the money was coming in, and we were happy. So one day there was going to be the Olympic Games that were held in Tokyo, so we decided to go and attend the Olympics and also go on a family vacation. It was really awesome having to spend time with my time. So we went to watch basketball games and it was epic. Well, I am a big fan of basketball, so I enjoyed every moment of it. Being a political scientist came in handy because we managed to get VIP seats, and my wife got a chance to promote her agency, which really helped her grow her business and took it to a higher level. As the basketball game ended, there was this young man who was a basketball player from Canada. The young man had skills and passion for days. You would see that he was not taking basketball as a type of career, but he was enjoying it and loved it. As he was not ranked with the best basketball players, but he was the greatest, if I may say. So after the game, I went to greet the players along with their coaches. It was really great having to engage with other people. As we were busy shaking hands with the players, we reached this one athlete, and since my wife was before me, she shook his hand first. But what caught my attention was the way my wife was looking at the young man. They exchanged looks until I cleared my throat and greeted the young man, who was also busy ogling at my wife. I didn't know if I was reading too much into everything, but the way they were looking at each other made me uncomfortable and somehow jealous. I loved my wife so much to the point that I didn't want any man looking at her like she was some kind of meat on sale. I know my wife was and still is beautiful, so her beauty would somehow make me feel insecure. After we got back from Tokyo, things were no longer the same. Bianca would stare at her phone the whole day and not mind the children. Yes, we had a nanny, but every child needed their mother. There was this time where the nanny had gone home. I arrived at the house and there was so much smoke that I suffocated right after I had opened the door. When I got in, I went to check what was burning, and to my surprise, Bianca had burned the dinner she was preparing. I asked why she wanted to burn the house down. She told me that she was busy and she forgot to check the pots. Luckily, my children were also not home. They were visiting my family, so it was a relief. Imagine how suffocated my children would have been if they were in the house because their mother was busy on her phone. I raised the issue of her being an absent parent to our children and always glued on her phone. She just got angry and started shouting at me, telling me that I was not the only one with a job, so she was busy, and the children had family. I couldn't believe that she was the one speaking like that. I wondered what had gone wrong with her. She had totally changed to a different person. My mind was telling me that it was maybe work-related. She was always busy and traveling a lot, meeting up with clients, so it was possible that it was really work-related. But my conscience kept saying something else, like she had been okay all along. She was traveling and meeting up with clients. So what was up with the sudden change? Surely there was something going on. Her behavior kept changing each time until I decided to move our children to my family house because of the tension that was going on in the house. It is always said that children can easily feel the tension between parents as they catch things easily. So it was my best choice to move them so I would be able to deal with the matter. A few months later, after I had seen that my wife's behavior was not changing, even after I had tried addressing the issue and requested that we visit a couples counselor so we could find the root of our problems. She rejected my request and told me that there was nothing wrong with her. Obviously, she was going to say that so she can dismiss me, but I was worried about our marriage because it was hanging on a cliff. And I was scared that once it loses the grip, it would fall and break. So since she didn't want to meet me halfway and help me solve whatever problem we were facing, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I knew I had to find a way to get to the bottom of everything. So I asked one of my good friends that I had built a friendship with when I was still an assistant professor. He was also doing an internship in the IT and computer department. He was a computer geek, which was why I asked him to help me hack my wife's phone. I know it was creepy of me, but I had no choice because I had tried getting through her phone and other gadgets, but they all had security codes, so it was not easy getting through anything. My friend helped me find everything that was in Bianca's gadgets. The things I got really shook me. I had thought I knew my wife, but it was clear that I didn't. I thought I had married well, but what she was doing was something that I never thought she would do. My knees got weak and I couldn't believe it when I found out that she was busy flirting with a basketball player, the one I had seen staring at each other with bedroom eyes. They were not only flirting, but my wife was also sharing her nude pictures to the guy and doing all that dirty stuff over videos they were sharing with each other. I felt my blood boil in an instant. I wanted to hurt her where it hurt the most. So I decided not to confront her about my findings until I got all the information I needed about the shenanigans she was busy doing. I was just disgusted because the athlete that she was busy with was a child 10 years younger than her. Was that even legal, having to seduce and share your nudity with a child? I found that disgusting, and it is still disgusting whenever I think of it. It makes me livid. I couldn't believe that I had been sleeping with a body seller. What she was doing was selling her body, right? What angered me more was that she didn't even think of the consequences of what she was doing. Her marketing agency was doing well, and if those pictures and videos were to come out, her reputation and her business would be ruined. She didn't think of our family, the children, and everything else. As I continued digging more with the help of my friend, of course, I figured out that they had shared some moments together after the Olympic game that we went to watch in Tokyo, meaning I was left at the guest house in Shinjuku sleeping with the kids and she went to the young athlete. But I should have figured things out when we got back from Tokyo from the changes she had made, She was no longer the wife I had married. So I found out that the young athlete was actually the richest and youngest basketball athlete in Canada. In my type of work, we call people who do what Bianca did with that young man as molesters, because there was no way a grown woman would enjoy intimacy with a child. Not just any child where you are older by 2 or 3 years, but 10 full years. That was just a pure abomination. I was so disappointed at Bianca. I mean, why would she leave her warm and loving home and go outside her marriage to do such a disgusting act? Where did I go wrong? I felt like I was not a man enough, or she was not satisfied enough in our marriage, so she resorted to getting satisfaction outside our marriage with a young athlete. I started doubting my man capabilities and strengths because what she did really bruised my man ego. I felt like I was less of a man. There was no way I was going to just leave things as they were. I needed to teach them a lesson. They would never forget, even if they liked. I was hungry for vengeance. My heart was shuttered and hurt, and it wanted revenge. I couldn't allow them. Well, more like I couldn't allow Bianca to toy with my heart like that and think she would live a happy life and live it to tell a tale. I kept quiet for a few weeks, hoping that she would change. Mind you, that time I had planted a bug on her phone, so it was easy to monitor wherever she was going. During that week, I decided to get back home earlier and prepared dinner for my wife. I was trying to add and renew the spark in our marriage. That day, she came back very late and made an excuse that she was busy at work. But I had already seen that she left her office in the afternoon and went to a hotel not far from where she was working. I knew that her meetings with clients didn't last longer than 2 hours, but that one lasted 5 hours longer, which meant that she was in a very important meeting. Maybe she was meeting the great God himself. I was made a fool. I mean, even a fool could see if he is being made a fool, right? And that was what Bianca was making me. But fools also get tired of being fooled. When she came back, I asked to speak with her, which she dismissed and told me that we would talk some other time, and told me that she was tired. I knew there and then that the young athlete had taken my wife and I had lost her to him, so I continued being the present parent in my children's lives, meaning I was spending more time at my family house because I couldn't get my children back to the toxic environment. Bianca was becoming a regular at that hotel that she was busy going to. One day I decided to just follow her and go to that hotel. When I got there, I saw her coming from one of the hotel rooms with the young boy, and they were busy laughing and acting all lovey-dovey and touchy-feely. I got worked up to a point that I approached them, and one thing I noticed was the evil look my wife gave me. She looked at me with so much hate in her eyes. The spark that was there when she would look at me was gone. She was a totally different person that I didn't even know how to describe. She asked me what I was doing there, and that I was embarrassing her. I couldn't believe my ear. Who was the woman in front of me? She told me that I should go home and never bother looking for her, as if she was one of my children. I then knew that I had lost her. I had lost my wife. But she was not going to leave me without a fight. A week later, I received a call from our family lawyer asking me that I should come over to her office. And when I got there, I was given an envelope with divorce papers that was filed by my wife, meaning she had thrown away our 10 years of marriage for a young athlete that she had met a year ago. Life can be unfair sometimes to those who respect it right. Imagine losing someone you have been married to for 10 years, and the worst part is you don't lose them to someone at least their age mate, but they leave you for a child that is 10 years younger than you. It doesn't feel right. It makes one feel like they were not enough. And no wonder most people resort to alcohol and drugs, some to fall into depression, and some end up committing suicide. It is because of all those things that we face in marriage. Some would say it is better getting married at a young age so that you can have a lifetime to learn about your partner. Some say it is better to get married when you are a bit older because you have had enough time to learn about the person you would be committing yourself to. And I say none of them is better. I think marriage is an underrated scam where one party has to suffer in the hands of another. So I don't see myself getting married again. I have learned that the hard way. The divorce papers that I had received, I didn't sign. I mean, if I signed them, that would mean she would be entitled to 50% of everything I own. I couldn't let that happen, especially not after I had worked hard for everything I had. So I asked for an avail in court to fight for my assets. I just couldn't allow someone who went against her wedding vows to just walk out free with almost everything I owned. Yes, I was also going to get 50% of what she had owned, but what she made was way smaller than what I had achieved. I then told myself that it wouldn't be a bad thing if I had taken everything she owned and maybe left her with at least 20% of what she owned. So I called her and found out that she had changed her numbers, meaning she really wanted nothing more to do with me, but I couldn't let her win. Not with my children's inheritance, so she had to first sweat and fight me in order for her to get my things. I called my friend again and asked him to find me Bianca's new number, which he did. Then I called her using a banner phone, hoping that she wouldn't recognize my voice. Luckily, she didn't, meaning she had erased me in her mind totally. That did sting a little because I had thought that she was going to recognize the voice of someone she had spent a century with, but she didn't. I then remembered that I had to stick to the mission in action. So during the call, I had asked her to meet up with me at a nearby cafe, which she blatantly agreed. And I asked myself who this person was. Who would just agree to meet up with someone without asking the reason for the meetup and who that person was? Or maybe she thought it was her young athlete. That really shocked me because as much as I wanted to hurt her where it was hurting the most, I still cared. I mean, she is the mother of my children and my children still need her. So why would she sell herself so short? Since then, I vowed to myself that I would never get into a relationship with a person without even going through their background check to avoid such surprises. 2 days later, I met up with Bianca, which almost didn't end well because she was starting an unnecessary drama and causing a scene. But I managed to calm her down. I mean, I was her husband. So I still knew some buttons to press, so she would stop being dramatic. I then told her that if she wanted me to sign the divorce papers and free her, she should give me 75% of her company, and she would have the remaining 25%. She started swearing at me and telling me that I would get that 75% when she was 6 feet underground. I wanted to negotiate and do things calmly and in a civilized manner, but she chose to act like a bitch. Then I showed her the pictures and videos of her and her young boy that I had got when I asked my friend to hack her phone. She couldn't believe that I had such cremating evidence of her and her baby boy, and that evidence would not destroy only her, but the boy also. She started acting tough by telling me that I had photoshopped everything. I then told her that there was nothing more than we would discuss, so we would meet in court during our divorce proceeding. But she had to be prepared for what she might find in that courtroom so she wouldn't be surprised. I actually didn't want her company, but I had to act a bit rough with her and think of our children. I mean, who she was going to chow the money she was going to get on my 50% assets plus her money. So I made things easier for everyone and saved her from the unknown. It was like I knew what was going to happen, like I had predicted the future. The day of the divorce proceedings came. What surprised me was that she came accompanied by her small boyfriend, which made me really confused because I had thought that the divorce proceeding only needed the married people and their representatives, but I decided to keep my peace and continued with the day. So my legal representative raised the issue that my wife was the one who was cheating, which means she had performed adultery in our marriage, so she didn't deserve anything that was mine. She started throwing tantrums that were unnecessary. I didn't understand why she was fighting for my assets while she had hers, plus a rich baby boyfriend who was an athlete, which should have been a cherry on top. But she wanted to be greedy and selfish and want everything, not thinking about her children and their future. I was so disappointed in her. I had thought she was smart, but she was the dumbest person I had ever come across. Weeks later, she had tried tarnishing my name and my reputation on social media, but things backfired badly. Mind you, I didn't even share the cremating pictures and videos. Her baby boyfriend did the work on my behalf. I was surprised because the boy was with Bianca at the court not so long ago, and they were in love. Or that was what people thought and looked happy. So what would have made the boy release such disgusting and cremating things about his lover? So I asked my trusted friend to dig deep on what was really happening. I found out that the young athlete had broken things off with Bianca, and things were not looking very good on Bianca's side. The young athlete had gone back to his home country in Canada, so Bianca was left with nothing. Mind you, she had signed the 75% under our children's names, though she didn't know that. She thought she had signed them to me. I somehow felt bad for everything that was happening, but my heart and conscience was like, let karma take its place and play its role. Karma was dealing with her so badly to a point that she went back to my family home and asked for forgiveness. Because my mother had a very kind heart, she welcomed her in. Her reputation was drained, her business gone. Well, only 25 perfect was gone because the other 75 was still safe, even though it was no longer under her name. Her life became a mess. She slowly drowned into depression and somehow resorted to drugs. My mother called me and told me that I had to rush home, which was when she had explained everything to me and that I should help Bianca. A part of me didn't want to help her. I mean, not so long ago, she was throwing insults and tantrums at me for wanting half of everything I had owned. I was glad that I had fought tooth and nail to keep my things. I mean, imagine if I had signed the divorce papers and agreed to give her 50% of all my assets. That would have meant that she would have also lost it to her Canadian young athlete. So I went home and saw the state Bianca was in. It was really saddening, so I listened to my mother and I got her help. Not because I wanted to help her, but because my mother had asked me to, plus my children couldn't keep seeing their mother in that traumatizing state. My mother told me that it had been 6 months since she had moved to my family home, and she didn't want to call and tell me that earlier because I was still upset, and that she knew that I was not going to agree for her to take Bianca to our family home. Which was very much true, because as much as she was the mother of my children, I wanted nothing that had to do with her. I hated even her scent. So my mother did well by not telling me, because I would have driven from Houston to Dallas to drag her out of my family house. She had really hurt me in the worst possible way when she was still drunk and swimming in love and head over heels over a young athlete just because he was rich, or she wanted fame since the boy was well known. Anyway, as I had listened to my mother, I decided to take Bianca to Recover Texas rehab so she could get the help she needed, because she had turned to be a druggie just because of a small athlete. She spent 9 months in rehab, and when she got out, she was back to being the Bianca I had fallen in love with, but I was never going to get back with her. Even if she cried at a waterfall, I was not going to give in. All I did was for our children to get a chance with their mother. So one day she asked to speak to me. She told me everything that had happened and that the boy had started being abusive after he had scammed her off her company and dumped her. She started apologizing and told me that she was regretting everything she had ever done to our family. To tell the truth, I didn't care anymore about her apologies, just as long as she was going to be a mother to our children and cover the time she had lost. So I just told her that I had long forgiven her, but there was no way she and I were going to become a family again. The only thing that was connecting us was the kids, either than that we were and still are nothing to each other. I was just glad that she had gotten help and she was back to being a mother. Once I saw that she had fully recovered, I gave her a position of being a CEO at her marketing agency. I know, right, but it was no longer hers. It now belongs to the children. So she was and still is an employee. That was the least I managed to help her with, and told her to find another place to live in, because I didn't want her getting comfortable at my family home, and agreed that she was not going to stay with the kids, but she would visit them whenever she missed them, and everything was settled. I was happy with my life. I moved on from the past and focused on the present and the future. Did I handle everything well and did well by helping Bianca what she had done to me and our family? Or should I have let her suffer like how she was after the young athlete had dumped her? Do you think she is still going to go back to being the Bianca she was when she was still dating the young man? Please advise.